And now, more You Talk Now.
Hey, it's Steve, and I am here today with our very own Dr. Josh. I love this guy. We have so much fun together. And Josh, tell people, just in case they don't know who you are, just a little couple quick little nuggets about who you are.
Well, thanks, Steve. I'm a licensed psychologist. I have worked in hospitals, in outpatient settings, a lot with adolescents. I ran a program for adolescent self-injury. Now I do a lot of work in the research, evaluation, analytics world to be able to look at what's effective and not effective and hopefully help advocate for better services across the country.
Well, we are very grateful to have you as part of the Utah crew, and you bring some very valuable input. And today I thought it would be interesting to talk about something that it's concerning me with a lot of young adults, and it's the area of suicide. Yeah. And of course, every year we have a month that's Suicide Awareness Month, and there's suicide hotlines. And I got to be honest, it breaks my heart when I hear about a young adult that has decided they no longer want to live. And I'm glad that a lot of them don't succeed in attempting that exit. But there are too many that do. And of course, in my own community, we had, at the start of school year, we had 4 young adults take their lives within 10 days. It's crazy. So when it comes to suicide, what's the first thing, and you're thinking about a young adult, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
There's so many aspects to this, and one of the things to consider is suicide is a massively leading cause of death in youth and young adults. One of the biggest leading causes of death. Yeah,
is it not the second leading cause of death now?
I think it is.
I think it's accidents of some sort, car accidents, things like that. I think suicide, and I think the third, believe it or not, is homicide.
It might be. It's been a while since I've looked at the statistics, and I think at one point it even exceeded car accidents.
Yes.
And depending on areas of the country. It's things to look at and think about. It can vary dramatically from area to area. A big part of, I think, a question to look at is, in some ways, the nature of suicide and what's going on. Why does somebody want to die?
Exactly. Well, and it's interesting you bring that up because, I speak, I do school assemblies and talk about bullying and talk about suicide choices and so on at middle schools and high schools. And every single, without exception, every single student that has come up to me afterwards who has attempted suicide told me the same exact thing. Steve, I really didn't want to die. Yeah. I just wanted the pain to stop.
And that's a great point, and I was realizing even just as I said the phrase, why do they want to die? I mean, really, even I as a licensed psychologist misspoke there. A lot of times, it's one of the myths around suicide is that people want to die. Now, in some cases, somebody wants to die.
They do.
But by and large, it's death is less painful than what I'm experiencing right now. There's a lot of things about the language we use around suicide, around, frankly, a lot of issues that are worth considering. I mean, even the language that we're using here around suicide attempt and not succeeding, those actually have an implied piece of failing then. If something has been attempted and not succeeded, that's a failing. Which is not what we're intending to.
So you need to work with me in cleaning up my language. I mean, seriously.
This is a really good example of both of us right here and now unintentionally using language that can actually contribute to misunderstanding, can contribute to stigma, can contribute to discrimination, and in some ways almost a lack of empathy or less empathy. And we're wanting to help.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's, and I do recall you sent me a link to some articles about language. I haven't had a chance to look at those, but now I have even more motivation. Not that I didn't before, because I always appreciate everything you send me. But what can we do then? How can we, somebody's listening right now, they're depressed, they're hurting, or maybe a friend is. Either way, what would you say to them if they were sitting right here with us now?
Well, there's, again, a couple of big pieces, and related to this conversation about language. If we think about this idea that death is often less painful than what's happening right now, or potentially less scary, we can go down a long list of emotions. We need to look at then, so there's 2 approaches. One, coping skills. What can make current things less painful and to a point where it's tolerable? Doesn't mean that it goes away, but how can I cope with it?
I can cope with it.
Right, where death is not easier, ultimately.
Woo.
And on the other part is hope. I think that goes very much hand in hand. I mean, that's part of the reason I became a psychologist, was if I culled it down to kind of one word, it would be hope. And what we find is hope is actually is like the number one protective factor, which means the things that help prevent suicide.
Oh.
You kind of think about it. I may be in incredible pain, things that feel completely intolerable. If I am incredibly hopeful that this will change and will go away, death isn't as much of an option, ultimately. I see something happening. In contrast, I'm in incredible pain and I have no hope that anything will ever change. That sounds pretty darn good.
It does. And you know, it's interesting to me, as you've talked about death is such an unknown thing to so many people.
It's true.
You know, a person who has faith, a faith-based person, has hope of what's going to happen to them when they die, but a lot of people don't have that hope. So to me, it's interesting that somebody would think the unknown could be better than the known.
That shows how much pain can be going on right now.
So let's go back to coping for a moment. You and I have had this conversation a lot about coping, and I'm getting to the point of thinking we probably should write a book on coping skills, because it is such a big thing. It's you know, especially with young adults, there are parents and educators and so on that kind of, you know, it slam the hand down and say, hey, stop doing this, but they're not understanding the reason somebody's doing something is a very good possibly coping, a way to cope with that situation, that pain or whatever. So how do we make that turn so we start coping better? Does it start with hope then? That gives us the ability to cope?
Ideally, if we can find a piece of hope.
Okay.
And it's not just as simple as, oh, things will get better. So friends and loved ones out there, you know, just telling your person who is in pain, saying, oh, it will get better.
Yeah.
If you've ever been in pain and somebody telling you, oh, it'll get better, usually you want to punch them in the face.
I was going to say, I want to slap them. You know?
Best of intentions. Again, I think that's one of the challenging things around this area is we can be very well-intentioned. We are trying to help as best as we can, and we could be unintentionally making things worse. Coming with somebody alongside them in love and trying to be able to understand as best as possible where they're at right now, where the pain is, and accept that as reality right now. Now, acceptance doesn't mean agreement. It doesn't mean that I'm going to sit there and, you know, be passive.
Right.
Acceptance simply means acknowledging reality. And the reality is
they're
this
hurting.
person or me or, you know, both of us
Sure.
are in incredible pain. And that is the first step in empathy, which starts being able to build a good relationship. And social connectedness, relationships, are also one of the best protective factors. If I can start feeling love, compassion, and support from loved ones, that's what actually is the foundation of hope by and large.
Awesome. And that relational, that community has to be with somebody that you can trust. I know I found in my own experience, you know, it's I'm not going to open up. Right. I'm not really going to, I'd say I'm not going to listen a whole lot unless I know I can trust that person.
100%.
You know, if I can't trust them, and you took the word out of my mouth, empathy, because I kept thinking as you were talking, empathy comes up here, walking alongside, understanding. I like that whole thing because there is a huge difference between accepting someone, a situation, and approval.
Absolutely.
And I can remember sitting with a friend, and this is a bit different, but whose wife had died. And I sat there for 2 hours, and I don't think I said 10 words. And now, you know, for me, that, you know, that's crazy because, you know, I have this gift of talking or whatever. But that's not what he needed. And I had nothing to say other than I'm here for you. I can't begin to understand what you're going through, you know, that kind of thing. So that's really what we're talking about. Somebody coming alongside.
Absolutely.
And in a sense, putting their arm around somebody and saying, I'm just here for you. I want to walk with you. I want to encourage you.
What frequently happens when somebody is in a place of believing that death is less painful, and frankly experiencing that death is less painful than what I'm going through right now, having somebody be present with me in the moment, and as you said, often not even saying anything. For any of us who have had deeply painful times of life, having somebody just sitting there, maybe a hug, maybe a pat on the shoulder, can be a lot of different ways that it's shown. Maybe just sitting across from one another, maybe not even looking at each other, just being.
Just a sense
presence.
of being there, presence.
That is a way of having that acceptance and saying, I see you, we're here together, and you don't have to do this alone.
That's huge. And this is such an international problem.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I was talking to somebody in a coffee shop recently I was talking to the manager about these events that we had done for students, and, you know, the hashtag goodbye to mean thing and parents. And this lady said, well, are you planning to go to South Korea? She goes, I've taught there and I have connections. She goes, you guys need to go there. And I said, somebody else told me we need to go to Japan. She goes, oh, absolutely. So this is something that is happening around the world, but we want to say something to those of you that it's happening to you right now. So if we don't have, we're going to have to continue this conversation. I think we need to do an entire show on this at UTalk. But for now, if we think about kind of the takeaway, for a moment, let's talk to that person who's listening, who's saying, Steve, Josh, the pain, the depression, taking my life is looking a lot more acceptable to me than trying to hang in there. I don't have hope. What do we say to them?
I think one of the first pieces is really acknowledging that, yeah, it may be really bad. You may be experiencing and maybe have experienced some horrific things. You probably are in very deep, real pain, and acknowledging that from someone else and from yourself is important.
Yes.
Before making that decision and dying, which you can't come back from.
Right.
Ultimately.
Right.
I mean, that is a final choice.
It is.
There are a lot of options that are out there to be able to help. No one thing works for everyone. And there's increasing resources, increasing interventions and things that can help.
Reach out.
To try and be able to have some hope out there. I can't guarantee what would work and how quickly it would work. There is something that will work. One of the things I'm trained in clinically is in what we call dialectical behavior therapy, DBT. It was developed by a psychologist in Washington called Marsha Linehan, and she developed it specifically for people who are chronically suicidal.
Oh.
Because this is something that's very difficult.
Yes.
Frankly, sometimes it's a group people don't always want to work with because it's scary.
Oh, I can imagine.
And not a lot had worked.
Yeah.
Now, she's been developing it over the last few decades, and it has shown tremendous benefit.
Wow.
So just as an example of very hardcore research showing that there are new ways that are just like what we were talking about, being present, acknowledging, accepting what is going on right now, is a way that has given a lot of people hope to move forward. That could be a resource for some folks. There are suicide hotlines.
Sure.
There are hotlines just if you want to talk, and you can text, you can be anonymous.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's the beauty of technology today that there are so many options. I would ask, try some of them. Please, try.
Contact us.
Sure.
I mean, right, you can send a text. UTalk, text the word UTalk to 411-247. Call us, on our, it's not a hotline, but our line is there. It's 855-508-8255. You can go to our website, utalkradio.com, but reach out to somebody. And for that person quickly who isn't struggling, which is fantastic, but they have a friend who is, the idea then is come alongside.
Come alongside.
Just put your arm around them. Just be present. Just say, I'm here for you. Call me, text me, come see me anytime. Just reach out to somebody.
And a lot of these same hotlines and resources can be useful to loved ones to be able to give ideas and look at specific situations, because every situation is different. And that can make it a little more challenging,
yeah, it can.
But it's definitely possible. Just the fact that you're interested and concerned is tremendous and huge.
UTalk Radio.